Welcome back to the Vintage Firearm Series. And today I thought we'd talk about 22s a little bit and different things that were going on from the mid-1850s to about 1890 and try to figure out what was on everybody's mind. I have in front of me, it's a pretty well-known little tiny gun. It's by the J. Stevens Arms and Tool Company. I have to kind of look at that and read it because I just want to say it's a Stevens, because it is in the purest sense of the word. But technically, they were bought out 2 times in the first 2 decades of the 1900s. So 1915, they were bought out 1 time, and of course Savage bought them out in 1920. But this was previous to that. This gun was made in 1900. Now it was made this model was made between 1900 and 1910, but I strongly suspect this is a first year production. And in thinking about this, I wanted to kind of figure out, if I could, what was on their mind, because it's a long rifle, 22 long rifle. So in doing a little research on it, I found some interesting things, at least was interesting to me, and there were things I didn't know. They invented the long rifle. Yeah, wow. I mean, when you think about it, it's like 1851, 1857, something like that. Smith & Wesson came out with a 22, what we now call a short. It was a black powder, but it was the size of a short and labeled as a short. And so before then, it was a parlor type gun that you would use in your house in France. And then I'm looking at my notes down here, so if I'm not trying to be rude. It's 1871 they came out with the long, and I really wasn't able to figure out who was responsible for the long. But it was kind of like a short-lived. It's the only one that didn't kind of live around forever. I mean, it's still around and you can still buy longs. I bought a lot of them the other day because I have a couple of guns, and I'm going to go into that a little bit, that only shoot longs. And then, of course, like I said, in 1887, they came out with the long rifle, Stevens. And I'd like to talk about why I think they did that. They were looking for an angle. And of course, Winchester, after Stevens came out with the long rifle, they came out with the 22 WRF, which is like, think of it as a magnum of the day. And I'm going to show you a little later on the sizes of them all and examples of them all. And I'm also going to include a blank. So you can kind of get it. No one has any idea who invented the blank, somewhere back long time ago. So why did Stevens want to come out with an LR or some ammo that nobody else had used? Well, if you look at the design of their gun here, not sure how far it can focus. Going to have to get used to this. The way it works is very similar in some way. It's a simplified design of John Browning's 1885. I'll show you that in just a second. So you open it up, you've got the extractor sitting there, so you start putting it in. When you start getting a little closer, you bring the extractor in, you push it all the way in, then you come in, and you're ready to fire it. There is no safety on this. The safety is that you don't put this little piece back on until you're ready to fire it. So they could go ahead and redesign, and they came out with it in 1887. Now, in 1890, Winchester came out with the WRF, not to be outdone. Now, that was undoubtedly working with John Browning and Matt Browning. And so they did the 1890 pump 22 and the new ammo at that time. But you could buy that gun as a gallery gun. That would be a 22 short. You could buy it during its lifetime as a long rifle and as a WRF. So what's kind of, this is, I just showed you. Now this is a little tiny thing. Man, it weighs literally nothing. I mean, kind of get a relationship to the hand versus the gun. Now, this is the one that John Browning designed in he designed it in 78, and was making it for a few years before Winchester even found out about it. He had a small shop in Utah. So as you can see, this is what they call falling block action. Okay. Hang on a second here. Okay. So let's open this up a little bit. Now this is kind of complex, but still simple. Now you don't have any way, you don't have any tube feeders, you don't have any clips. That was all going to get pretty wild in the next few years. But John Browning made a gun that you could make in any caliber, really. The design of it was simple. Now this was what they call a low wall. Okay, they also made a higher wall. The higher wall was generally for heavier calibers. But here, you pull down the lever, and you can see that whole action just drops away. So it was interesting enough that this was a simple design overall. And that's why John Browning could make it out of his small shop. But notice this is an 1885, one of the first ones made in 1887. It's got a bull barrel to it. It's not a Browning, it's a Winchester, because 1885 Winchester came out with them. But let's go. But that's a 22. And it's considered, I believe it's considered a short. I've only fired shorts in it. I would certainly not fire any very fast. I don't see any markings. Oh yeah, 22 short. Okay, so then we have this one. This is kind of interesting too. And this is John Browning's gun, of course, and it's an early one. And you can tell it's an early one by the way this comes in right here. Later versions are going to come, this little piece that is like a T, see that little T there? On the later ones are going to come down to the side, and you're going to be able to see it from the side when you look at it, okay? And this one here, I believe, is okay, this is a long. This is my 1902. So this is a very early gun overall, and it's a remarkable shape. We're going to do reviews on all of these. So it's a 22 long. That's kind of interesting because I love this gun, but it's become a little bit hard to get ammo. Now, I've stockpiled some up, so I'm okay. I've got plenty, but just recently. Now, this might show it better. See how that is like a T there? So they kept on changing it. But during that same period of time, you have 1900, that's a 1902. Well, in 1900, they brought out the Stevens. Almost forgot where the chair was. So they brought out this Stevens. And so Winchester, was kind of thinking, okay, I can only imagine what they were thinking. They're trying to chase this new ammo because Stevens designed this new ammo. It was going to be very successful. Everybody knew that. So what was Winchester going to do? Well, Winchester had an answer for it in 1906. They came out I just got to grab the right one. They came out with this gun. And this is considered, it's not even considered an 1890. If you look right on it, it says model of 1906. And I don't know if you can actually see that, but if you can't, please take my word for it. So there's a few differences. It's smaller. Back in here, the wood's smaller. There's no arch right here. They had a non-breakdown model and a breakdown model. This is a breakdown model. But the big thing about this gun is it would handle the 22 shorts, the long, and the long rifle. It would cycle all of them. So, and the way you have to chamber your first shell is you push back on the hammer here, and then you can cycle it. When I first got this one, there's a little spring in here, and if this little guy here does not come up to the top, you just need to add a little tension to that spring. I've done it on a few of mine. So the other thing that they did, this was considered a cheaper model. They cut some corners, if you will, but I don't think they cut them in quality. Not really. I mean, look at this. Instead of being a corn cob type, you know, as far as all the grooves and everything in it, they just made it plain. The wood was plain, still looks like walnut to me. And the butt pad appears to be some variation of plastic. Let's see if we can get you to see what it says. Sometimes I watch these videos and I say, hey, you know, next time I should do this. Another thing that we can do is I can pop this up for you. Now the other one, when you look from the top, you couldn't see anything as much. Look at how they've changed that. Now that might have something to do with the accepting all the different kinds of ammo. Quite possibly. Okay. Like I said, this model is a takedown, but a lot of them were not. Okay. This is kind of an interesting one. This was actually my first one. I ran across this and there was no way I was going to walk away with it. It's got that look to it. I don't know the exact year right offhand. Probably about 10 or 12 or something like that, 1910 or 12. But this is a bull barrel, okay? And in addition to that, this is the WRF. Notice the configuration here changes again. Now this will only handle the WRF. It is a very, very, very cool, in original condition. Most of mine are, to be honest. I don't think there's any of them that have been touched. So the funny thing about it is Stevens came out with the LR in 1887, but by 1890, Winchester had done one up on them because they had this variant. Okay, you could buy the WRF. So that was in another league by itself over the LR. Now, today, about 58 or 59, you know, they have the Magnums now, which are more powerful than this one. But to be honest with you, I still love this gun. I love shooting it. Let me give you little examples here. And at the end, I've got a picture that I'm going to try to put in too. With all side by side. So here, that's a blank. And like I say, nobody knows who came up with that. And then this is a short. To give you an idea how much bigger the short actually looks pretty big compared to that, huh? So we'll just set that one down there, and then we'll go to this one. And then we have the short compared to a long rifle. And then we have the long rifle. No, that's a long, excuse me. The last one was a short compared to a long. This is a long compared to a long rifle. Tiny bit of difference, but I see a lot of lead difference. And then, of course, we'll do the long rifle next to the WRM. WRF. Okay, so there you go. And again, I'll show a picture. So to kind of get back to where I think Stevens was, is they had a gun that was very light. Anybody could carry this gun. I mean, you're not going to get tired. You could carry this gun with you everywhere you went forever, and you might be bored of it, but you wouldn't be tired. The other thing about this was kind of interesting. It was a takedown version. So you just unscrew this right here. Pretty simple design, really. And then, there you go. 2 pieces. I generally don't take down my guns, but I'll make an exception here. It's pretty unique. That finish is original. They're out there. So all they had to do when they were designing this, I mean, I consider them a small company. They didn't want to present that image. What they wanted to do was to present the image of this very large company. They said they were the largest gun manufacturer for sporting guns. Well, I think probably in numbers, because this one here, I don't know what it actually sold for, but I'm going to guess it wasn't very much, because it was tiny compared to the 1885, which was still being made at that time. It was made up until, I don't know, about 1920. And I don't know if you can see the difference in these guns. I can certainly feel the difference. Not kidding. I mean, there's got to be, this one here is like probably 3 times heavier than this gun. I tried to get a thing to weigh them, but I really couldn't do it accurately, so I decided not to. I hope you haven't been bored by this, because all of these guns are going to get a video of their own. But I wanted to do this one today because I really feel it's an interesting one. And if you ever get a chance to play around with a crack shot, I'd suggest it, because it's a lot of fun. And I had to do a few little things to get mine running up and running correctly, but it was worth it. The guy who had some of the firearms that I purchased in a group, I didn't know him or anything like that, but I bought them off an organization that had acquired them directly from him. And he had used way too much oil, and they had sat for years, and then that turns into, I don't know, a film or sludge or something. It's like almost like a varnish. Turns into a varnish, that's what it is. And so it was really hard to I haven't played with that much. Can you tell? I shot a few shots to it. I got it so it would work good. And then I was done. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this today's episode. And I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And if you have any comments or you feel like you'd like to say something, you want to make a correction to something I've said, it's just a lot of information being thrown out there quick. If I've made a mistake or two along the way, feel free to let me know. Hey, super glad you're here. Thank you so much. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.